Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we will be analysing the important news appearing in the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 12th February 2020. The topics to be discussed today are reflected on your screen and the timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So let's start. Now this news appears as an article on page number 11. Now yesterday only the AAP government has come back to power in Delhi. Now, amongst the notable works done by the AAP government, education was one of the area in which the AAP government has focused tremendously and has also taken steps to improve it. So, in this article, the author basically is telling us about the key components of the Delhi model of education. Now, education is an important topic from the perspective of GS Paper 2, especially under the subtopic of issues relating to development and management of social sectors relating to education. In addition to this, education is also a very important topic from the perspective of the essay. And in the year 2019 only, that is the previous mains, a question was directly asked on education in the section 2 of the essay paper. Hence, education is not only important from GS paper 2, but having a general idea about the state of education in India can also come in very handy if a topic related to education is asked in the essay paper. Now in India, for the longest time, as far as education is concerned, there is a lot of inequality because education was being imparted for two types of people. One was education for the classes, that is people of the higher classes who can afford good education. And second was the education for the masses, for the normal people who do not have the resources to provide good quality education to their children and are rather dependent on the government to take care of the education for their children. So the AAP government, through its Delhi model, has firstly tried to bridge this gap between education for the classes and the education for the masses. This simply means that the AAP government has tried to provide the same kind of education both for the people of the higher classes as well as for other strata of society which include the lower classes as well. In addition to this, government's dedication towards education is also evident from the fact that they have allocated almost 25% of their budget for education. And this is because of their firm belief in the ideology that education is a necessity and not a luxury. Now, Delhi model of education is based on 5 major components. Let us discuss them one by one. Well, the first pillar of Delhi model of education is the transformation of the school infrastructure. Now, earlier, especially in the government school, the school buildings lacked basic facilities such as toilets, good classrooms, and furniture. And having to study in such a morose kind of environment lowered the enthusiasm of the students as well as the motivation of teachers to teach. Hence, the AAP government tried to change this by building new and aesthetically designed classrooms which were equipped with good furniture, installation of smart boards, establishment of libraries, auditoriums, as well as sports facilities all helped to transform the infrastructure of the school. The second component was the training of teachers as well as the principals. The teachers of the government school were given a lot of opportunities for their professional growth as they were made to visit a lot of foreign schools such as the Cambridge University, National Institute of Education Singapore, as well as various Indian institutions such as IIM Ahmedabad, etc., so that they can go and interact with the teachers and learn from the best practices. Furthermore, the teachers were also exposed to new kind of pedagogy and leadership training which will help the teachers move away from a uniform and mundane kind of teaching. The third pillar is of community engagement. This was done by firstly reconstituting the school management committees. Every school management committee was given an annual budget of 5 to 7 lakh and then they were further given the freedom that they can spend this money on any activity or material which they felt was required for their school. In addition to this, regular dialogue between teachers and parents was encouraged through mega PTMs or mega parent-teacher meetings. Now, in these mega PTMs, guidelines were given to the teachers to enable them to better engage with the parents. The fourth pillar is curricular reforms, especially in teacher training. One of the biggest impediments in school education is the low rate of retention. And the reason for low rate of retention is that children have very poor foundational skills and this demotivates them to study further. Therefore, special initiatives were taken to ensure that all children learn to read, write, and do basic mathematics so that they are not demotivated when they go to higher classes. Additionally, a happiness curriculum was also launched for all the children between nursery to class 8 in order to focus on their emotional well being. Furthermore, an entrepreneurship mindset curriculum was designed for children in classes 9th to class 12th in order to develop their problem solving and critical thinking abilities. Apart from all this, focus was given on the existing subjects as well to ensure better performance of the children in class 10th and class 12th board examination. Last but not the least, the AAP government did not allow any fee hike or increase in the private schools, especially in the past 2 years. Now, the first four components impacted nearly 34% of the children who are studying in Delhi's government school. However, still, 40% of the students in Delhi still go to private schools. Now, in the past, all these private schools increased their fee by almost 8 to 15% annually, that too arbitrarily. Hence, the AAP government has ensured that the private schools in Delhi arbitrarily do not come up with any kind of fee hike until and unless it is examined by authorized chartered accountants. Now, these were the 5 things on which the Delhi government focused in its last run. And now the AAP government has Agenda 2.0 for the education, in which it will focus on 3 major things. The first is that it will review the syllabus of classes 1 to 8 standard, in which they will lay emphasis on foundational learning. Apart from ensuring that all children can fluently read, write, and do basic mathematics, the focus will also be on building emotional resilience in the children through the happiness curriculum, as well as teaching the school students about our core constitutional values through the Desh Bhakti curriculum. Thirdly, early childhood care and education will also be deepened through Anganwadi, and every government school in Delhi will have a nursery. The second focus will be on setting up a Delhi Education Board, which will promote learning that encourages critical thinking, problem solving, and application of knowledge amongst children. All this in turn will help the children to better tackle the challenges of the 21st century. Furthermore, for all those students who have recently graduated from the Delhi schools, the AAP government will also run programs in spoken English and soft skill training. Last but not the least, the AAP government is set to open specialized schools in all 29 zones of Delhi, which will nurture the talent and aptitude of students in various fields such as arts, science, literature, sports, languages, performing arts, etc. So this was the basic of this article. Now it is very unlikely that UPSC will ask a question particularly to Delhi because it is very state specific. However, whatever we have studied here today is very much applicable to the general education status in India. So you can use all these points if you are writing an answer on any question related to education governance under GS paper 2. Further, for your practice, you can try to write an essay on this topic. Education is a necessity, not a luxury. And in this essay, you can incorporate the points which we have just now studied. So with this, let's take up our next news. This news too appears as an article on page number 11 and it is with respect to the Lokpal and the Lokayukta Act. Now basically in this article, the authors are stating that even 7 years after the passage of this act, it is yet to be implemented in the manner that it was envisioned. Now before we go on to discuss the issue with the implementation of act, let us first ask a very important question as to why we needed the Lokpal. Now this discussion is relevant both from the perspective of the prelims as well as from the perspective of GS paper 2 under the topic of governance. To simply put, the reason that we required a Lokpal was due to the deficiencies existing in the earlier anti-corruption systems. And it was due to these deficiencies that despite overwhelming evidence of corruption, no honest investigation and prosecution used to take place and the corrupt hardly used to get punished. The major issue or the major deficiency was the lack of independence of the investigating agencies like the CBI. Now, various anti-corruption bodies like state vigilance departments, internal vigilance wings of various departments, anti-corruption branch of state police, etc. All such investigating agencies are not independent, and in most cases, they have to report to the same people who are themselves accused of corruption. Hence, they were very likely to be influenced by the people sitting at the helm, because of which they were not able to function in an independent and transparent manner. The second deficiency is that these anti-corruption systems are powerless. For example, CVC. Now, though CVC is an independent body, but it has no power to prosecute or take some substantive action against the corrupt people, because CVC and other such anti-corruption bodies were merely advisory in nature. So they could give two kinds of advices to the government, either to impose departmental penalties on any officer or to prosecute him on the court. However, evidence and experience has shown that whenever any minister or a senior officer is involved, their advice is rarely followed. So even if investigative agencies are independent, they do not have the power to prosecute the corrupt. And the third deficiency is the lack of transparent and internal accountability in these anti-corruption bodies and systems. Because presently there isn't any separate and effective mechanism to check if the staff of these anti-corruption agencies is turning corrupt or not. So due to these three major reasons, we required a Lokpal, which would function as an independent body to look into the charges of corruption. Now, earlier also many times we have discussed thoroughly the various provisions of the Lokpal and the Lokayukta Act, the latest one being on 9th December 2019. However, basically in this article, the authors are speaking about the various issues or challenges which are coming as far as the implementation of this act is concerned. So let us talk about the issue. The foremost issue was the delay in appointment. Now, the provisions of the act stated that the chairperson and the members of the Lokpal are to be appointed immediately after the passing of this act. However, for more than 5 years, the chairperson and the members of the Lokpal were not appointed, and they were appointed only in 2019 when a contempt petition was filed in the Supreme Court, when the government failed to comply with the 2017 ruling of the court, which asked the government to initiate the process of making the appointments. The second issue is related to the selection process. Now, as you must be knowing, the members and the chairperson of the Lokpal have to be selected through a selection committee which will consist of the Prime Minister, Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha, Chief Justice of India, and an eminent jurist which is to be nominated by the President of India. However, the manner in which these appointments were made has raised doubt about the independence of the Lokpal even before it has become operational. The major issue was that the Leader of Opposition was not included in this selection panel. Hence, a truncated selection committee was set up without the Leader of Opposition. Though the leader of the largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha was invited for meeting as a special invitee, he declined so on the ground that it was mere tokenism. So what is required is that either we should recognize the leader of the largest party in the opposition in the Lok Sabha as the leader of opposition, or we should amend the Lokpal Act to include leader of the largest opposition party as the leader of opposition as far as the selection process is concerned. Because this is exactly what was done as far as the selection committee for the CBI director was concerned. Hence, the same rule should be applicable for the appointment of the members of the Lokpal as well. The third issue is that various rules regarding its functioning has not yet been made. Firstly, the manner and the procedure of conducting an inquiry or an investigation has not been made. Secondly, the Lokpal has even not notified the format in which the people can file complaint. Thirdly, the rules regarding the disclosure of assets and liabilities by public servant has also not been notified. Therefore, the most important rules regarding the manner in which the Lokpal will conduct an inquiry or an investigation has still not been framed. Hence, the Lokpal has a long way to go before it can actually become operationalized and start working effectively. Last but not the least, The Lokpal has also not started the process to set up the prosecution or the inquiry wing. Now, one of the important features of this act is that it has separated the inquiry wing from the prosecution wing in order to safeguard the independence of the Lokpal. However, both these inquiry and prosecution wings are yet to be set up. Furthermore, the Lokpal has even not appointed the director for the inquiry or the prosecution wing. So these are the major challenges as far as implementation of the Lokpal is concerned. For details relating to this act, you can refer to this DNS dated 9th December 2019. So with this, let's take up our next news. This news appears on page number 9 and is titled Cleaning of Drains Septic Tank Claim 110 Lives in 2019. Now, this topic is with respect to manual scavenging, which is important from the perspective of GS Paper 2 under the category of social justice. We have already spoken about what is manual scavenging, the various measures taken by the government, and what are the certain issues which can be improved upon earlier also in the DNS. So, we are just going to revise that same lecture today. Now, the issue of manual scavenging was covered in detail in the September issue of 2018 of the Focus. Manual scavenging is defined as the practice of manually cleaning. Manually means with use of hands and not with use of any equipments. So manual scavenging is the manual cleaning, carrying, disposing or even handling in any manner human excreta from dry latrines and sewers. So thus any person who handles in any manner human excreta in an insanitary latrine, an insanitary latrine is a dry latrine, or in an open drain or pit into which the human excreta from the insanitary latrine is disposed, or even from a railway track, or in such other spaces or premises as the central government or state government may notify. So to get the general idea, manual scavenging is the manual cleaning, disposing or handling of untreated excreta from dry latrines as well as sewers as well as railway tracks. As mentioned, it is usually done with hands using the most basic tools like buckets, brooms and baskets. So all these people do not have proper equipments or even protective gears like gloves and masks while they are cleaning these latrines and sewers. Manual scavenging in India is not just a job, it has a lot more implications, especially in the social context. In fact, manual scavenging is the worst surviving symbol of caste untouchability in our country because currently it is only the so-called lower caste people who are expected to do this job. Thus, manual scavenging is a caste-based occupation. So you can very well imagine, given the situation, that manual scavengers are one of the most marginalized and poorest communities in India who have a very poor social and economical standing in our society. Another very important issue related to manual scavenging is the loss of life. A lot of manual scavengers lose their lives while doing the job because they inhale toxic fumes or sometimes get stuck in these drains and sewers and die of asphyxiation. Now, looking at the plight of the people engaged in this occupation, the government over the period of time has come out with a lot of acts and legislations to improve this situation. The first law on manual scavenging was enacted in the year 1993, known as the Employment of Manual Scavenging and Construction of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act. Now, as per this act, what happened is that government banned the employment of people as manual scavengers for manually cleaning dry latrines and also for the construction of dry toilets. So as per this act, the government say that no person can be employed to clean dry latrines in the country, and to ensure that these vulnerable people are not exploited, the government even banned the construction of dry toilets. So altogether the government said that dry toilets will no longer be constructed in our country so as to ensure that people are not employed to manually clean these dry latrines. Though employment of manual scavengers became a criminal offence, nobody was charged with employing workers in almost 20 years up till the year 2013 when another act related to manual scavenging was enacted. So in 2013, the government came out with prohibition of employment of manual scavengers and their Rehabilitation Act. So this act, in addition to prohibiting manual scavenging in the country, looked at even rehabilitating people who were hitherto working as manual scavengers in our country. So as we were discussing, in 1993 Act, only the people who were cleaning dry latrines were recognized as manual scavengers. But this act widened the definition of who could be a manual scavenger and said that even people who clean septic tanks and railway tracks would fall under the category of manual scavengers as defined in this act. So now the 2013 Act prohibited manual scavenging in all its form and ensured the rehabilitation of such people who were working as manual scavengers. Now this definition which we discussed in the beginning right here is the one which has been taken from this 2013 Act. But you need to understand that there remains a descriptive fallacy as far as definition of manual scavenging is concerned, even as per the 2013 Act. Because the definition of manual scavengers as per this Act is very narrow and excludes a wide variety of workers. For example, this definition does not include sanitation work such as drain cleaning or even the cleaning of toilets by domestic help. Further, as per this Act, latrine cleaners, railway cleaners, sewer cleaners, and fecal sludge handlers are recognized as manual scavengers. So therefore, this major law does not include drain workers, drain cleaners, people who are working in the waste treatment plant, people who are employed for cleaning public or community toilets, or even domestic helps for that matter, who are employed by almost all middle class family and are doing these menial jobs of cleaning toilets. Thus, you can understand that there still remains a lot of lacuna as far as definition of manual scavenging is concerned. Because till the time you do not efficiently recognize what is manual scavenging, you really can make an effort to improve the situation. Further, in the 2014, based on the judgment of the Supreme Court, a directive was issued which said that even sewer workers will be included in the definition of this Act. So therefore, currently, as per the 2013 Act, septic tank workers, railway tracks cleaner, as well as sewer cleaner are included in the definition of manual scavenging. But still, as we discussed, drain cleaners, your domestic help, or people who clean public toilets are not included. Recognizing the complexity of the issue, various initiatives have been started by the government. The first, of course, as we discussed, was the 2013 Prohibition of Manual Scavenging Act, which has banned manual scavenging across India in all its form and has made manual scavenging and has made it a non-bailable offence. Further, the government is running a central sector scheme called Self-Employment Scheme for Rehabilitation of Manual Scavengers, under which identified manual scavengers and their dependents are given one-time cash assistance of 40,000 rupees or loans up to 15 lakhs at concessional rates. The major step towards eliminating manual scavenging is the Swachh Bharat mission, through which the government aims to eliminate the need for manual scavenging in the first place. Thus, under the Swachh Bharat mission, government wants to construct proper, modern and functioning toilets as well as better sewage systems. In addition to all those initiatives, what the government requires to do is to have better and stricter implementation of the current laws, especially the 2013 Act. And in addition to that, the government should try to improve the sewage as well as the sludge management system in our country so that there isn't a need for a person to come and manually clean a sewage or a sludge system. Lastly, let us also talk about the author's view which he has presented in this article. The first thing which the author is saying, that studies and research have found out that these sanitation workers basically work as contract workers for both the private sector as well as the government sector. You would already be knowing that the Indian Railways is the largest employer of sanitation workers in our country. And a lot of this employment by the government is not done directly but via private contractors. So what happens is that government delegates this duty to private contractors to get railway tracks or other premises cleaned. Then these private contractors hire the sanitation worker on contract basis and get the work done. Further, the author says that we do not really know what exactly is the share of these contractual workers working in the sanitation industry, but what we know for sure is the nexus or the connection between caste and the sanitation work. So the author points out that sanitation workers on contract mostly belong to the scheduled caste category, and a lot of surveys have pointed towards this, thus bringing out the fact that sanitation work is related to a particular caste and only people belonging to the so-called lower caste are expected to do this work. Thirdly, the author has said that contract work, especially in the sphere of sanitation, leads to gross exploitation and vulnerability for these sanitation workers,
especially at the hand of these private contractors. These private contractors do not pay the sanitation worker the promised amount and are at liberty to cut their payments as and when they like. Further, the author says even the government or the bureaucracy for that matter has not shown any interest to actually ensure whether these private contractors are giving the sanitation workers their just full due. So in the end what happens is that these sanitation workers they work with small time contractors who themselves have no idea what exactly is the role of a sanitation worker. Thus these contractors exploit these workers and do not even provide them with proper safety equipments. Further, even the government does not provide any proper training to these sanitation workers because, very sadly, for the government and for the society, sanitation is a work which really does not require any training. Thus, what the government and the contractors fail to understand is that sanitation is a complex work which requires both knowledge and training. Lastly, the author says that all these sanitation campaigns do not talk or do not even acknowledge the relationship between caste and this sanitation work. Because the truth is, for the general society as well, everybody very subconsciously thinks that these works are supposed to be done by people of the lower caste. So, therefore, the author says so, whenever a situation or an incident like this is reported in the news, where a sanitation worker has died due to asphyxiation, the entire narrative and the news revolves around the background of the story, and none of the media houses, or anyone for that matter, wants to address the issue of the caste and work nexus. Now, based on discussion, please try and attempt this mains question, which reads Sanitation in India is still a caste based occupation. In light of this statement, discuss the issue of manual scavenging in India. With this, let's move on to our next news.
This news has been taken from page number 15 and is with respect to the gig economy. So basically, this article is stating that in the gig economy, the gender pay gap is much less as compared to other industries. Hence, they feel that gig economy is an answer to the issue of gender pay gap. Now, we have discussed gig economy earlier also, so we will revise that same lecture. Now, the context of this article is that recently the Periodic Labour Force Survey has highlighted that the unemployment rate in India has increased to a 45-year high at 6.1%. And this in turn has forced a lot of urban youth to look towards the gig economy as a means to find employment opportunities. And currently, a large number of the urban youth have succeeded to find technology-based jobs in companies like Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato, etc. Hence, in this regard, we will be talking about what exactly is the gig economy, its impact and challenges in India. Let us first understand what exactly is a gig economy. Now, gig economy refers to a form of economy in which various organizations employ people on contractual and non-permanent basis rather than hiring them as permanent employees. And in the gig economy, a spectrum of professions come, ranging from highly paid to below minimum wage level. Now, gig economy is already very functional and strong in the advanced economy like the US, wherein there are a large number of firms which hire people on a contractual basis for a short duration of time. And now, with the rapid adoption of technology, this trend has also started to slowly gain momentum in India as well. Now, let us have a closer look at the gig economy in India. Now, currently in India, 10 million people are working as freelancers. Now, most of the freelancing work in India is related to the technology-enabled IT sector. And this conclusion can be drawn from the fact that the majority of freelancers in India work on web and mobile development, web designing, internet research, data entry, etc. Further, in the last half of the 2018-19 financial year, almost 13 lakh Indians have joined the gig economy, and this has led to a 30% growth in the gig economy as compared to the first half of the financial year of 2018-19. Hence, in just half year, the gig economy has grown by 30%. Additionally, it is also estimated that out of the total 21 lakh jobs which will be created in the metro cities in 2019-20, 14 lakh jobs out of these 21 lakh jobs will be created in the gig economy. And currently in India, it is the food and e-commerce companies which account for the major share of job creation in the gig economy. Hence, food and e-commerce companies are major employers in the gig economy. Next, let us see what were the reasons that the gig economy has developed in India as well. Now, the first reason which can be attributed for the growth of gig economy is the rapid growth of digital communication. Because in digital communication, the workforce is highly mobile and work can be done from anywhere without any geographical barriers. Secondly, various companies, by shifting to the gig economy, have reduced their operating cost because now the companies are not liable to pay pension and other social security benefits. Thirdly, the gig economy provides the necessary flexibility to the workers wherein they can switch jobs frequently and choose work which suits their area of interest. And the fourth and the last reason is that studies have shown that there is a slowdown in the formal employment creation, and this slowdown in formal employment has boosted the development of the gig economy, which hires people on non-permanent or contractual basis. Next, let us see why India should focus on the development of the gig economy. The first reason is that gig economy can have a positive impact on employment. Because as we know, currently India is witnessing a slowdown and is also facing jobless growth. However, the development of gig economy will help to boost the employment creation in the Indian economy, and this will lead to a better and inclusive growth. And it is not just the urban youth which can find employment in the gig economy. Even rural youth can get gainful employment in the gig economy because the rural youth too is currently facing the problem of disguised unemployment in the agricultural sector. The second reason is that it will help to improve the organizational competitiveness. Now, various firms and companies will be able to rationalize their workforce and reduce their cost because they can hire short-term contractual workers depending upon the amount of work they have. And this in a way will also improve the competitiveness and enhance the efficiency of the firms. Third is the freedom it gives to the workers. Now, as mentioned earlier, gig economy provides the necessary flexibility to the workers because they have the freedom to work as per their convenience with no fixed working hours. Moreover, they can also switch jobs according to their interest if they are unsatisfied with the one at hand. And the fourth reason is that the gig economy can also provide opportunities for women. Now, usually women are discouraged from taking up formal sector jobs because the formal sector demands the women to put in large number of working hours every day. However, since the gig economy provides flexibility, this will enable the women to choose the terms of workplace and the number of working hours according to their own convenience. Hence, this in a way will lead to women empowerment because now higher number of women will be enrolled in such jobs and will become financially independent. So these are the four basic reasons why India should focus on the gig economy. Having discussed this, let's also talk about the concerns and challenges facing gig economy today. Now, the first concern or challenge relating to the gig economy is the non-optimal utilization of the demographic dividend. As you must be knowing, that the current economic survey has pointed to the fact that India will very soon be starting at a demographic dividend stage because more than 50% of India's population will be in the working age group. Hence, the need of the hour is that this section of population, that are the ones in the working age group, such population needs to be skilled and trained so that we can optimally use this demographic dividend to our advantage and to also fuel our economic growth. Because what happened is that though gig economy does provide with employment, however, this employment is very informal in nature. And this informal sector jobs, which the gig economy provides, hinders the optimum utilization of the demographic dividend. The second concern area is the unclear legal framework of the gig economy. Now, the current Indian labor laws do not explicitly consider gig workers. Therefore, various workplace-related acts and benefits like the maternity benefit, sexual harassment at workplace, etc., all such laws are very silent or unclear about whether they are applicable to the gig workers or not. The third is the lack of social benefits. Now, as stated earlier, gig workers are non-permanent workers who are hired on contractual basis. And since they are hired on contractual basis, the employers do not give them social benefits. Therefore, unlike their counterpart, that is the permanent employees in the formal sector, the gig economy workers do not have access to social security benefits such as insurance, pension, provident fund, etc. The next is the lack of job security. Now, since in the gig economy, people are hired on short-term contractual basis, they can be hired and also fired at any time depending upon the whims and fancies of the employees. And this in a way leads to lack of job security because the worker is unsure whether tomorrow he will have that same job or not. And the fifth challenge is with relation to the management of human resources. Now, usually organizations find it difficult to supervise and manage its gig workers or employees because the nature itself of the gig employment is that it is very geographically distributed. Since in the gig economy, majority of people can work freelance, it becomes difficult for the organization to supervise and manage them. And it is due to this fact that all those companies which require that their workforce or their employees should work in a team and in a collaborative manner, for such companies the gig economy is not really beneficial. So these were the challenges related to gig economy. And with this, we move on to our next article. Now, this news has been taken from page number 12. Now, recently, the Lok Sabha, by voice vote, has passed the Constitutional Scheduled Tribe Order Amendment Bill. And through this amendment bill, the government is trying to include the Parivara, Talavara, as well as the Siddhi tribes of Belgavi and Dharwar in Karnataka into the scheduled tribe list. Hence, in this regard, let us see who is a scheduled tribe and how are they included in the list. Now, the Constitution of India under Article 366, subclass 25, refers to the scheduled tribes as all those communities who are scheduled in accordance with Article 342 of the Indian Constitution. So, what we get from here is that the Constitution does not define as to who is a scheduled tribe, but only says that all those communities who are referred under the order passed, who are referred in the order passed under Article 342 will be considered as scheduled tribes. Now, under Article 342 Clause 1, it is the President of India who notifies which all tribal communities will be included as a scheduled tribe. However, this the President has to do after consulting with the governor as far as any state is concerned. So the initial process was that the President, after he consulted the governors of the various states, specified certain tribes or tribal communities as scheduled tribes in relation to that particular state or union territory. Hence, through this provision, the President had passed the Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order of 1950. So this was the original order in which a list was given of all the scheduled tribes in the various states. Furthermore, Article 342 Clause 2 then states that it is the Parliament of India which can, through a law, either include or exclude any community from this list of scheduled tribes. So please remember that it is the Parliament and not the President who has the power to amend the list. Originally, it was the President who notified the list of the scheduled tribe. However, if today any amendment has to be made to the list of the scheduled tribe, that will be done by the Parliament through a law. And this is exactly what the Parliament is doing as far as including these communities in the scheduled tribe category as far as Karnataka is concerned. Now, as stated, the Constitution of India is silent as to the criteria based on which a community shall be declared a scheduled tribe. However, who constitutes a scheduled tribe under Article 342 has to be understood in terms of their historical background of backwardness. Hence, in this regard, certain parameters such as primitiveness, geographical isolation, shyness, as well as social, educational and economic backwardness are some traits and parameters which are taken into consideration before including a community under the scheduled tribe list. Now, as far as the tribe are concerned, it is the tribe of Parivara, Talwara and the Siddhi tribe of Belgavi and Dharwar which are to be included in the scheduled tribes list as far as the state of Karnataka is concerned. So, from the perspective of prelims, you can also keep this information in mind that these four tribes are related to the state of Karnataka. So, with this, let's take up our next news. Now, this next news appears as an editorial on page number 10 and is with respect to India-Sri Lanka relationship. Now, as recent as this Sunday, that is on 9th February, Baswa Sir has comprehensively discussed about the India-Sri Lanka ties So you can refer to this DNS for more information on this topic. This next news appears on page number 11 and is with respect to the issues going around investment between India and USA. Now this topic too has been discussed comprehensively by Baswa sir on Sunday, that is on 9th February 2020. So you can refer to this DNS for more information. With this, let's take up our practice questions. Now based on our today's discussion, here is a prelims practice question. Please pause the video and solve them. We'll discuss the answer after 5 seconds. Question number 1 is with respect to the scheduled tribes in India. First statement read, Constitution specifies the parameters to be considered while declaring a community as a scheduled tribe. This is incorrect. Constitution does not mention any kind of parameters. Second, the President of India can amend the ST list only after consulting the governors of the concerned state. This is also incorrect. It is not the President, but it is the Parliament of India which can amend this list, that too through a law. Hence, the right answer to this question is D, neither 1 nor 2. Question number 2 reads, which of the following are included in the selection committee for the chairperson and members of the Lokpal? First, Prime Minister, this is correct. Second, Speaker, this is also right. Third, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, this is correct. Fourth, Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha, now this is incorrect. And fifth, Chief Justice of India, this is correct. So the right answer becomes C, 1, 2, 3 and 5 only. With this, we come to an end for today's discussion. Let's take up the question for the day. The question for today reads, the Parivara and the Talavara communities are associated with which state? A. Uttar Pradesh, B. Chhattisgarh, C. Karnataka and D. Gujarat. And the correct answer for yesterday's question is D, 1, 3 and 4.